right, welcome back, everybody. We're going to reconvene for the afternoon session. This afternoon, what we have remaining are renewals. So I'm going to turn it over to staff and Ms. Cook.
All right. Jenna Cook with the Office of Charter Schools. Good afternoon. So today we are going to be finishing up the presentations for the 2024 renewal cohort. As a reminder, OCS has placed schools at a renewal term that are primarily based on academics using the renewal guidelines, but it is the responsibility of the Charter School Review Board to decide and approve a final renewal term. And then as a board, you all will vote in January. So today is for information, asking questions, and taking notes, and then you will make your decisions in January. So for today's meeting, I have data for the recommended 10-year schools, and then the 5- and 7-year placements are here today, and some will be here tomorrow. And so we will start with the 10-year placements. So there are 3 schools that are placed at a 10-year. The first is Noose Charter School. They are a K-12 school in Johnston County. Their last renewal was a 7-year in 2017. You can see that they were comparable for all 3 years. They were above Johnston County schools in 22-23, 21-22, and in 18-19. And OCS is not currently aware of any compliance or financial issues. And then you can see that they have been performing at a C for the last 3 years. And then you can see their enrollment and grade level proficiency numbers as well. And then I'm going to just go through all the 10-year schools, and if you all have questions, please stop me. The next 10-year placement is Sugar Creek Charter. They're a K-12 school located in Mecklenburg County. Their last renewal was a 10-year in 2014. They are comparable within that 5 percentage points of the LEA, and they have exceeded growth for all 3 years that we are looking at. OCS is not currently aware of any compliance or financial issues. And additionally, you can see their additional data. So they've been performing at a C for the last 3 years, as well as their grade level proficiency and enrollment numbers. And then the last 10-year placement that we have is the Community School of Davidson, also a K-12 school in Mecklenburg County. They also received a 10-year in 2014. They have been performing significantly above CMS for the 3 years that we are comparing, and they also met growth all 3 of those years. Community School of Davidson has performed at a B for the 3 years that we're comparing, and then additionally you can see their GLP and enrollment numbers. Those are all of the 10-year placements that OCS has. Does anybody have any questions? All right, we will move on. So the next set of schools that we are placed at a 7-year. So I will present the school data, and then I will invite the school up to give you their presentation. So for a 7-year placement, the guidelines say that there is no evidence of compliance issues in the past 2 years that would show a pattern of unresolved or consistent issues. They've had financially sound audits the last 2 years. They have not been on financial noncompliance disciplinary status the last 2 years. And their academic outcomes have been comparable to the LEA for the last 2 out of 3 years, or met or exceeded growth the last 2 out of 3 years. And then also they are not currently designated as low performing. So the first school that we have at a 7-year placement is Marjorie Williams Academy. They are a K-12 school in Avery County. Their last renewal was a 10-year in 2014. They were comparable in 22-23 and in 21-22, but not comparable in 18-19. The school was CLP in 18-19. In 21-22, they were removed off the low performing list, but in order to get off the CLP list, you have to not be low performing for 2 years in a row. So this year, they were also removed off the low performing list. So that's why you see that CLP in 21-22, but they were not designated as low performing in 21-22. OCS is not aware of any current compliance issues. We're also not aware of any current financial issues, but I do want to note that in July of 22, they were given a financial noncompliance cautionary status for low ADM. but we're not aware of that escalating any further. And also the guidelines state disciplinary, and this is cautionary status, so just wanted to give you that distinction. And then school business will also be able to give a full report in January if you have questions about that non-compliance status. And then Marjorie Williams Academy performed at a C in 23 and in 2022. They were at a D in 2019. And then you can see their enrollment, and they also are prepared to talk to you about their enrollment today as well. So at this time, I will invite Dr. Austin and her team up to talk to you about Marjorie Williams Academy and for any questions.
Ms. Cook, remind me, how much time are we giving each applicant?
15 minutes.
15? Okay.
20 minutes, sorry.
20?
But that includes your questions.
Good afternoon. I'm Marilyn Williams, and I am the board chairman of the Marjorie Williams Academy. And with us today, we have 3 of our board members who are passionately supportive: Stacy Clark, Tracy Royster, and Jeremy Burnett. And we also have the guest, Len Williams, who's the son of Marjorie Williams. And I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Cindy Austin, who is the principal of Marjorie Williams Academy.
Good afternoon. My
Good
name
afternoon.
is Dr. Cindy Austin, and I have the honor of serving the students of Marjorie Williams Academy as their principal. Marjorie Williams Academy is one of the 100 original charters, a K-12 school chartered in 1999 under the name Crossnor Academy. The name changed in 2014 to reflect the $1.3 million gift from the Williams Family Foundation to build a new high school. This allowed us to remove high school students from sharing a space with elementary students, giving both high school and elementary an education and environment more conducive to their age group. Chartered to serve the residents of Crossnor Communities for Children, a children's home for abused, abandoned, and neglected children in DSS custody. Since the Academy's inception, the community student population has made up approximately 10 to 40% until August of 2023, where the percentage reached 60. Due to the low out-of-compliance opening ADM of 2022, we had conversations with the Children's Home concerning their admission numbers and their future plans. The decision was made to advertise in the spring of 23 to the community. Our community numbers doubled and now represent 60% of the population. This will be explained in the upcoming slides. We are a Title I school. We are community eligible provision, which means we're certified 100% free lunch. The last 2 years, the teacher return rate has been 99%. 2 years ago, we had a teacher who moved out of state because of his wife's job opportunity. Marjorie Williams Academy is the replication model on which the Crossnor Community Charter is based and received unanimous approval in October from the CSAB to open in 2025. We are asking for a 10-year renewal. Marjorie Williams Academy has provided financially sound audits for the immediate preceding 3 years. The 10-year renewal criteria where we fell short and we'll be addressing today: Marjorie Williams Academy is substantially in compliance with the state law, federal law, the school zone bylaws, and the provisions set forth in its charter granted by the review board, except for the 22-23 initial ADM that was below the required 80 students. Although Marjorie Williams Academy's academic outcomes for 21-22 and this past year, 23, were comparable to the academic outcomes of students in the local school administrative unit in which the charter is located, the third year for reporting purposes, 18-19, was not comparable. We are moving to meet all 10-year criteria. 21-22, Marjorie Williams Academy improved their school report card grade to a C. 22-23, we maintained the C, improved by 1 point, and moved out of low-performing and continuously low-performing status. This academic progress was on the heels of a pandemic, and as mentioned earlier, our ADM increased to over 100 this year. We do have challenges that we need to overcome in order to continue our progress. The residential foster care population fluctuates in a cycle. The ADM has ranged from 65 to 155 students. The number of students served every year typically ranges from 180 to 200, except for 2020 to the present. And this is because of the transient population of the residential foster care students. I'd like to explain the cycle and ADM fluctuation, which explains but does not excuse where and how we fell short of meeting all criteria for a 10-year renewal. Calendar flexibility allows us to start the 1st of August. This gives us an opportunity to provide 90 days of instruction for our high school students so they can test before break. We need to test before break because the courts may reunite or adopt out or place into foster care at the holidays. When discharged from residential foster care, it's very difficult to locate and bring the students back to test in January. This is part of the cycle. Traditional schools by calendar law start around August the 25th. Because schools are the #1 reporters of abuse, neglect, and truancy, reports to DSS increase in September, and we see that increase in residential foster care in October. We enroll as soon as paperwork is complete, but by that time, the academy is starting the second 9 weeks. If truancy is an issue, the student has missed the majority of the first half of the semester. If this is a high school student, we have 9 weeks to get the student prepared for an EOC in December. Residential foster care numbers decrease in January because those students are often reunited, kinship-placed, foster, or adopted around the holidays. But when schools are back in session in January and reports of abuse, neglect, or truancy are made, by February or March, residential foster care numbers will show an increase. It is not unusual for a large sibling group to come into custody in April for emergency placement when foster families are not available, or it may be necessary to split sibling groups up and partial groups arrive in care, presenting more trauma for students. The cycle will start again in August. Who we start with in August is not who we end with in May. The end of the year is bittersweet for both students and teachers because many of the residential foster care students will go elsewhere over the summer and not return in August. We test about 30% of who we teach 100% of the school year. With an average of 40% turnover rate for residential foster care students, who we test isn't necessarily who we have taught. It's important to remember as you look at our data that data has faces, and the faces that represent our numbers change regularly. So even though our ADM remains at 110, the faces that represent that 110 changes regularly throughout the year. However, our mission remains steadfast. This slide represents that fluctuation. In 1819, our school performance grade was a D. The ADM was 124, but we served 191 students. 21-22, our grade was a C. The ADM was 81. The students served was 134. And 22-23, our grade was a C. The ADM was 72, but we served 116 students. You will notice the ADM is trending down, and that will be addressed. Although the gap between the ADM and students served is closing, the turnover rate is still a factor to be considered. A correlation between the turnover rate and the school performance grade is present. The turnover rate directly impacts school performance. However, the increase in community numbers this year, increasing our ADM with consistent community numbers, will reflect positively on the EOGs and EOCs. It is estimated that we will be educating at least 60% of the population 100% of the school year. Let's stay on this slide and look closer at the ADM range over the years. 1999 to 2012, the ADM fluctuated between 85 and 105. That represented 95 residential students, which is 100% capacity for the residential foster home. We had 10 to 15 community students. 2013 to 19, the ADM fluctuated between 120 and 145. 95 residential foster care students and 55 community students. We did lose 20 community students over a 3-year period to the local LEA to play middle school and high school sports. 2019 to 20, the ADM fluctuated between 110 and 116. We had a drop in the residential foster care student numbers to 80. We had 35 community students. DSS reports decreased because of the pandemic. Schools, the #1 reporters of abuse, neglect, and truancy, were unable to report since students weren't in school. The abuse still happened, but there was nobody to report it. Federal law changed. The Family First Act, which favored foster family placement over residential foster care, was being put into place. 2020 to 2021, the ADM fluctuated between 85 and 110. We had a drop in residential foster care students to 65. We maintained our 35 community students. The decrease in DSS referrals continued as many schools had not reopened for face-to-face instruction. Remote learning was happening, but the abuse was hidden, and reporting truancy was problematic since attendance was determined by students logging on. During this time, Marjorie Williams Academy remained open. We moved out all unnecessary furniture to meet spacing requirements and repurposed rooms, the theater, the gym, and the dining hall by feeding the students in the classroom so we could remote within the school. We had an A-day, B-day schedule. Either the student was in class with the teacher or remoting from within the school. Subs were used to monitor students remoting from other parts of the school, and computer software was used to monitor computers, allowing teachers to shut down any unauthorized sites students were on. 21 to 22, the ADM fluctuated between 70 and 100. 65 residential foster care students, 30 community students. The federal law had officially changed. The Family First Act, which favored foster family placement over residential foster care, was now in effect. During open enrollment for the upcoming year, I did not actively advertise to the community because I anticipated a large increase in residential students in the 22-23 school year since schools were face-to-face and DSS referrals would increase dramatically. This proved to be a bad miscalculation on my part. Although the referrals did increase, the residential population did not, at least not for a length of time. 22 to 23, the ADM fluctuated between 70 and 95. The residential foster care numbers dropped to 55, and we maintained our 30 community students. My miscalculation led to a low ADM at the first of the 22-23 year. I take full responsibility for the effects of that decision. DSS referrals did increase, but the Family First Act was in effect and students stayed in residential foster care for a shorter amount of time, mostly emergency placement until a foster family became available. In January of 2023, the decision was made to advertise for the upcoming year to make up for the decrease in the numbers on campus. The issue was and still is balance. By how much do we increase community numbers to secure our ADM and be in compliance while still having the capacity to serve the unknown number of incoming residential foster care students throughout the year? When I approached community parents to come to the charter renewal site visit interviews, the response was overwhelming. When they were told that our ADM was out of compliance, they spent no time getting the word out about the academy. The parents wanted to help secure their charter school. Our Facebook ad and the community parent promoting the academy doubled our community numbers. We accepted all applications in by the deadline and were blessed with an equal distribution of applications throughout all grade levels, which saved slots for incoming residential foster care students to be enrolled throughout the year. Present day, the ADM has fluctuated between 95 and 120, 65 residential foster care students and 70 community students. The residential numbers are increasing, although not to the extent they once were, but still a factor to be considered. We have 25 applications on file for next year, and we haven't posted open enrollment yet. Our goal is to have at least 80 community students to secure the minimum threshold for compliance while making sure we always have room for the residential foster care students. How many, which grade levels, we don't know, but we have to be prepared and have space available. Balancing the consistent numbers while leaving room for an unknown, inconsistent incoming number is a challenge. We try to reach an equilibrium. Finding the balance between compliance and preparing for the unknown student numbers that come in and out of residential foster care is certainly a challenge. Lastly, I would like for you to hear from the students. Our second grade, the next slide. Our second grade artist who came into custody last year expresses that the academy is not just the best school ever, but the best school in his entire life. Also, a sibling group who was notified that their parents were not doing what was required of them to get custody back. The middle school student expressed that no matter the outcome, she wanted to stay and graduate from the academy because it was the first time she felt like a school cared about her, and for the first time she was making good grades. The elementary sibling, a fourth grader, stated that he finally learned to read and didn't want to leave. The students were placed in kinship placement, but the grandfather who lives within 30 minutes of the academy called and stated that the students were successful in school for the first time, and he would do whatever was necessary to keep them at the academy. He has made sure they were there every day. It's a nice change to a bittersweet goodbye we normally have with residential foster care students finding a home but having to leave the academy. In closing, I would just like to say that teaching the North Carolina Standard Course of Study, trying to cover the curriculum to an inconsistent roster of students that stay an inconsistent amount of time, trying to close the achievement gap as desks are moved in and out of classrooms on a weekly basis, the fact that we moved out of low performing and continuing low performing status by meeting growth and maintaining a C on the heels of a pandemic speaks to the dedication of our faculty and staff. We are asking for a 10-year renewal so we can continue to provide a safe environment that welcomes at-risk youth with open arms, no matter their trauma or their length of stay at the academy. A 10-year charter from this board is a vote of confidence to the community parents wanting a school of choice for their students. And lastly, a 10-year charter helps with teacher recruitment and retention by providing job security for our dedicated faculty and staff. This allows us to focus on our goal of raising our grade to a B and exceeding growth. We understand there needs to be accountability, and we respect the renewal guidelines and the processes that charters are subjected to in order to assure that North Carolina charter schools are performing at their best. So we respectfully request that we're allowed to continue our vision of providing a model education for the next 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the work you're doing with these students. It sounds like they definitely are benefiting from your efforts. So. Ms. Cook, the question I have is, what's keeping them in the 7-year slot right now is that they haven't been comparable to their local LEA for each of the last 3 years, correct?
Yes, that's correct. The 2018-2019 school year would have been the year that they were not comparable.
Thank you. Questions or comments
So,
from CSRP members?
in other words, had they been comparable 18-19,
they would be a 10, they would have fallen into the 10-year bucket, yeah.
I have a question. Would you be taking more students from the community if you had the capacity to take more? You kept talking about a balance between
Yeah.
your resident students and from the community.
Yes, as far as our capacity, we have to be very careful because we do not know of the incoming age group or the grade level. So if we were to say, take 15 community students in third grade, but then we had an influx of third graders that came in, it would make for a very crowded classroom. We try to keep it to a 10-to-1, 15-to-1 at best, at the most. But because we never know who's going to come into custody, you might end up with 15 third graders at the first of the year, but by October you may have 7, and it just fluctuates all year long.
Is your enrollment, are you also getting students from, say, Watauga or Caldwell, or is it mostly students who are in Avery?
As far as the community students are concerned, or the residential?
Both.
The community students, we have some from Mitchell, one from a sibling group from Watauga, but for the most part, they're Avery County. The residential are coming from about 9 feeder counties for sure, but we do have Crossnor Communities for Children feeds in from a lot of counties throughout the state.
Thank you.
Johnston, you well explained the challenges in educating this population. You haven't really told us what you did to improve these last few years. Your performance keeps improving, the growth is, was there something specific? Because you still have this student turnover, you still have the challenges, but you are moving in the right direction academically.
Yes, I think that speaks to the dedication of the teachers, just trying to find the best fit as far as the curriculum and what works. Of course, that changes all the time as the kids come in and out. I would say one of the non-academic, but is indirectly affects the academics, is we are sanctuary certified and is trauma informed, as well as teaching with love and logic, and we build relationships with the students, show them how much we care about them, and then they perform for us for that intrinsic award.
Other questions or comments?
Very impressive scores for the population you're dealing with.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Did you get any students from Grandfather Academy when it closed?
No, we did not. I think that was the owners of that. I'm not sure what children's home. I think they moved their population back down to where they were located.
Thank you for coming to Raleigh today and giving us
Absolutely.
this presentation in person. And we're not voting today, but
I understand.
thank you for all this information you've shared.
Thank you.
Thank you for making the trip.
for having us.
Yes.
So the next school that we have placed at a 7-year renewal is Carolina International School. They are a K-12 school in Cabarrus County. Their last renewal was a 10-year renewal in 2014. So data-wise, they were not comparable the last 3 years, but they have met or exceeded growth in the last 3 years. So that does put them academically at a 7-year renewal. We are not currently aware of any compliance issues. We are not aware of any current financial issues, but they did have findings in their 2019 audit. Although again, the 7 years says financially sound audits the last 2 years, and so to our knowledge, they have had financially sound audits the last 2 years. Carolina International School has performed at a C for all 3 years that we were looking at. And then you can see their GLP and their enrollment information listed. Dr. Paul Bryant is here with his board to give you a presentation and answer any questions.
Welcome, and
Thank you.
the next
Good
20
afternoon.
minutes are yours.
Appreciate it. How's everybody doing today? Good. Indeed. I will not be long, just a few brief comments, and then I'll have a board chair speak to you just a second as well. But to all the distinguished members of this charter board, I know you all are busy going through this, and I appreciate what you all do to hear us and go through this. I know that it's a lot of work, and we appreciate all that you do. I am Dr. Paul Bryant, and I'm honored to serve as the head of school at Carolina International. I've been here just under 2 years, was previously the principal and director of TMSA Greensboro, and prior to that, I have 25 years of experience as a vice president of several colleges and universities, including being a professor of the Department of Education and Psychology. Published several books and articles in the area of education and leadership, and I hold numerous, as you might expect, advanced degrees and licenses. So I've taught everybody from first grade on up to graduate school, if you will. It's been a long career. I'm tired. It's all good. That being said, I'm joined here today by our board chair, Dr. Camilla Ford, our school principal, Dr. Michael Griffin, who's here to answer any questions to that degree. Our finance manager, Mrs. Phyllis Rahili, is here. And another one of my board members, our secretary, Mr. Bob Gorman, is here as well. Together, the key operational staff at Carolina International, we have over 120 years of combined experiences in business, teaching, and leadership. But I just want to bring a few things to your attention that warrants consideration of the charter renewal duration for Carolina International at 10 years. And as the head of school, I'm deeply committed to providing the best educational experience for our students and ensuring their continued success. So on this slide that you have here, it clearly indicates, because comparability is the main reason we didn't get it, comparability. That's what we're going to talk about today. And the second slide clearly indicates that Carolina International has consistently demonstrated exceptional student performance as evidenced by our school report cards. And out of the 4 charters in our county, we're the only ones who have consistently met or exceeded student growth with a consistent seat. This achievement is more remarkable when you consider the performance of all of our county schools. We have students from 8 different counties, and I know that that is an issue here. So on the third slide, we'll start looking at that. It shows a comparison of the 3 main counties that we have. Cabarrus, yes, it's there, Mecklenburg, and Kannapolis Schools, which is in Cabarrus, but it has its own school district. Now, I know that we're compared directly to Cabarrus County, but when we look at Cabarrus, nearly 60% of their population of students are of the majority population of Caucasian or either Asian, some of the highest performing groups. We all know that. That's 60% of their population. It is important to note that most of our students at CIS come from other counties. Unfortunately, the critical factor is not considered in the current data reviewed by the state when making the decision whether to renew different charters. So in the 4th slide, the next slide over, you take a deeper dive into this. Using the state's data, not going off of that, just using the state's data. We're going deeper. We show that CIS has successfully closed learning gaps. That's something we don't look at here. But let's talk about learning gaps and the subgroups in one area that is allowable within the current regulations to look at those subgroups. And for example, in 22-23, the learning gap for African American students at CIS was about 39%, which is something we're working on. But that shows a decrease, whereas the same in Mecklenburg and Kannapolis schools in there and Cabarrus stood at 55 and 69%. 69% differences between the haves and the have-nots in these public schools. That is why these charters exist. And these findings indicate that CIS is actively closing the learning gaps while others are experiencing an increase. And to address this issue, I did contact state officials. I talked to Dr. Jenny Cohen. the director of research and evaluation. I said, why can't we compare ourselves to all of the 8 counties where they're coming from? Why can't we pull that data and really show truly what this is looking for? And she just says that this question comes up briefly sometimes and that we're not there yet. So we discussed that, the need to rectify the situation by drawing better comparisons based on the students' home counties rather than solely relying on the county where the school is located. By doing so, we can provide a more accurate representation of CIS's academic outcomes and its comparability to other counties. Additionally, just last week, when I was listening to the State Board of Education, I noticed that there were a number of clarity questions around comparability. And they said they're going to bring those questions that they had at the State Board to you. So comparability is on their mind as well, particularly in relation to the LEAs and how it factors into the subgroups and how they're considered. The comprehensive data that we've gathered unequivocally demonstrates that our charter school boasts comparable student subgroup performance results. When we consider the diverse groups of students within our charter schools, we understand the importance of equity and receives an excellent education. It is through these lenses that we have diligently approached the issue of comparability. By employing rigorous assessment measures and robust data analysis, we have crafted a comprehensive system that captures the true essence of our students' achievements. Our commitment to comparability is not just a statistical exercise. It is a reflection of our mission to empower all students to reach their full potential. By embracing and celebrating our diversity, we have created a vibrant community where every student thrives. Our results speak volumes and are a testament to the transformative power of a charter school education. I therefore respectively request this State Review Board to seriously consider stepping outside the confines of predetermined boxes and utilizing more comprehensive data that accurately reflects the comparability, accurate outcomes consistently achieved by Carolina International. It is crucial that we transcend the limitations of the current evaluation process and acknowledge the opportunities that manifest themselves when we not solely rely on data from the county of the school's location. And this last slide that you have there, the 5th slide, is just a snapshot of our approach to teaching and learning. One of the key interventions we have implemented is Teach Like a Champion approach, which was widely recognized for its effectiveness in implementing student engagement and achievement. Our teachers have undergone training, professional development to utilize these proven techniques, resulting in increased student participation and academic outcomes. Dr. Chance Lewis, he's a friend of mine, he's down here in Charlotte. He's visited our campus several times over the year to provide direct teacher training. We have also established a tier system of support to address the diverse needs of our students like many schools. This approach allows us to identify students who require additional assistance and provide targeted interventions to them as well. Additionally, our focus as a school on environmental and international curriculum provides students with a global perspective and an understanding of their impact on the environment. We sit on 83 acres that we're turning into an environmental learning, interdisciplinary learning that will be second to none. We encourage students to become responsible citizens who are aware of the challenges that we face. The question for this board and any board is, what are we doing with these charters? I'm in the tail end of my career. I won't be here forever. But I challenge you to start thinking forward, to say, what is this going to look like in 20 years? Do we build these charters for 50 years? Do we build them for 100 years? And let's start looking and seeing, what can we do to nurture them, to get them to where they need to be? That starts with the leadership, that starts with a board where that understands it, that starts with understanding where these individuals come from, that they come to our doors looking for something different, and we provide them with that. And with that, I'll turn it over to our board chair for a few words.
Ashley, how much time do we have left?
12 minutes.
12?
12.
Okay.
CIS, Carolina International School, is an established charter school that has been around since 2004, and they received a 10-year renewal in 2014. CIS head of school, Paul Bryant, Dr. Paul Bryant, was hired in 2022 to lead our school. Since becoming a part of the CIS family, he has been actively engaged in ensuring that CIS is continuing to move in the right direction. Our job as the board of CIS is to support Dr. Bryant with accomplishing his vision and goals of CIS as head of school. As the CIS board chair, we are continuing to strengthen our board members who have a vetted interest in CIS, along with the students and the families that attend CIS. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your presentation and for the work that you're doing with these students. Questions, comments from board members?
I'm interested in knowing the current enrollment.
Yes, our current enrollment, our ADM was at 759. That was an adjusted ADM that we have from there. So we're up 7% from the last year. And we anticipate and are planning for 4 to 5% increases going forward.
And am I correct that, did I see on the slide 41% of that is from Cabarrus?
That is correct. Yes. And the rest, Mecklenburg and sprinkled around. But yeah, the largest group comes from Mecklenburg.
Other comments or questions?
I just have specific empathy for this particular case. Only because Jenna, where are you? She's not here right now, but my school's on the border and also serves, predominantly from other counties, and it was, very, very close to my presentation last year about that other components should be considered, specifically with what you're being compared to versus just what's on paper, which is the rule versus what we're here to talk about. So I understand.
I echo that sentiment from my school as well.
I think so.
We appreciate it and stuff.
Other thoughts or comments?
Good presentation, I appreciate it.
We appreciate you all. Appreciate the opportunity to come here for you. And if ever there was an opportunity for someone a school that needs consideration, you need to look for Carolina International. You're going to see some great things come out of this school. And I think a 10-year would be definitely worthy and appreciated. And you'll definitely see that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for coming in person as well.
Indeed.
Getting to make little notes on here.
All right, one more for today. So also under the 7-year category is Community Public Charter. They are a K-8 school in Gaston County. This is their first renewal. They opened in 2019, and so they're falling under the 7-year category because we don't have data from the 2018-2019 school year. They were comparable in both the 22-23 school year and in the 21-22 school year. They did not meet growth and were low performing in the 21-22 school year, but exceeded growth last year and are now off of that low performing list. Compliance-wise, while I was making this presentation, we were made aware of an ESSER monitoring review with 3 findings. They are not required to submit correction until January 4th. And so I am letting you know that, but they are still within the window of making that correction. And that's not anything outside the norm of what our office would see from an ESSER monitoring review. Financial standing, we're not aware of any current issues, but school business will be able to give a report in January. For their performance, they were at a C last year, a D the year before that, and then for their enrollment, you can see for a growing school, they have grown enrollment as they've built up their grades. So Ms. Monica Dellinger is here today with her board and can speak to the school.
Thank you.
Wow. Must have brought a bus.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And like the others, before for you. You have 20 minutes and then questions.
Thank you. As Ms. Cook stated, I'm Monica Dellinger. I'm the Executive Director of Community Public Charter in Stanley, North Carolina. Today, I was able to have with me 6 of our 9 board members, our founder and chair, Eddie McGinnis, Frida Robinson, Sheila Clifford, Vidya Torbett, Don Everhart, and Tommy Morrison. Don is one of our he is our parent representative on our board, and so his daughter, which is one of our students, Caroline, is with us today. So she's in the back. She wanted to see what this was all about, so we were glad she was able to attend with us. 1 month ago today, Caroline was able to walk into our first ever brick and mortar school building. It's 74,000 square feet. And for Caroline, she is the firstborn of her family. She had never experienced what a true school building was like, because for the past 4.5 years, we have grown our school using modulars. And we've been on 2 sides of a street, multiple city blocks. So just something as simple as walking to a music class within an enclosed building was outstanding. So that's a great celebration for us as we have had our 1-month anniversary in our new building. As was stated earlier, we are in comparison with Gaston County schools and have made great gains on our school report card. In addition to our school building celebrations, I would like to mention that this particular school year, we have had a wait list all but our first year, but this year we have had a wait list in every single grade level. Now that we are in a brick and mortar building, I only see that to be a continuance. Last school year, we were at a 64 for a C. The year before on our school report card, we were a 47D. So we had 17 points of growth on our report card. Each year, I can say that we have begun fully staffed, which with today's staffing situations in education, that is almost unheard of. A majority of those staff hires have been through word of mouth because of our positive culture. In addition, our student retention, although we are growing, as Jenna said earlier, our student attrition rate is less than 2%. So we're very thankful and appreciative of that. As we built our building and we're publicizing it on Facebook, we had a comment that said, the building is beautiful on the outside, but it's life-changing on the inside. And so as you can see, in just those few points, it is absolutely life-changing. Our staff is able to come to work in a place that they want to be there, they get to be there, they have that philosophy, and they have fully embraced our intentionality of doing what's right and best by kids. In order to do what's right and best by kids, we have to meet them where they are, and that means knowing their circumstance, knowing where they are academically. When we were a low-performing school, one of the things that we attempted to do, and you hear that word attempt, was homogeneously group. What happened was we did not take into account staff buy-in, and you know that that is detrimental, which is proven on our report card. Our staff did not understand how to meet the needs of our students with our curriculum that we had, so we took a lot of information from them and learned from that. Last year, we reworked our master calendar, we reworked how we created classes with complete staff buy-in, and you see the results. In that process, we also understood that without knowing what our outcome was going to be, we didn't know what to put into it. So we have focused on the learning focus framework that allows us to begin with the end in mind, looking at those student strategies, looking at how we need to engage students, how should we work writing into it to build vocabulary in order to produce higher achievement results. When our school opened in 2019, looking at data coming in to try to get to know our small school of students, every grade level that was coming to us came with a year to a year and a half worth of absences. That wasn't tardies, that was just solely absences. So we have had to battle, if you will, the attendance issues within our school, because our parents, although they knew that we were the school of choice, they knew that we were going to do what's right and best by kids, we needed them in school every day. Another statistic that we have that we are proud of is that chronic attendance rate has dropped from 38% to 22%. I believe that all is attributed to our staff. We have enrollment because parents have said, we knew it was different when we saw students getting out of their cars and teachers were greeting their students with a smile on their face. They knew their name, and that's why we enrolled. So when you look at that, children know that they're loved, they're cared for, they're pushed to the limits that they need to be pushed towards because they have staff that is willing to work with them. Each year we have met our ADM requirements, even going from regular, the 30% increase because of growth. We went down this year to the 20% because of that low performing status. Our building was not ready at the beginning of the year, so we had to go to a contingency plan, and we were all very, very concerned about that because with any contingency plan, you account for enrollment decline. We played the enrollment game and knew that we needed 727, so we over-enrolled like any good charter would do. And for the first time, it backfired. And we started with over 750. And we're still sitting at 750. And again, I attribute that all to doing what's right and best by kids. Our financial health is, we are very, very healthy. Our contingency plan has set us back just a little bit because we had some bills that were unexpected, but we're still anticipating being in the black at the end of the year. I do attribute that success to our former executive director, who was very financially sound in her mind, and she set us up for success there. As we continue to grow forward, we know that we want to continue to focus on our attendance rates. We know that we want to continue focus on our student proficiency, and as we're growing our high school, we are learning this year with grade 9 that there's nothing better than in-person teaching. So we are wanting to build those high school academic offerings within our setting as we move towards a K-12 setting. I would also like to ask for a 10-year, even though my slide says 7, I was falling in the box of, well, the rubric says, a 7-year or greater consideration. That's how I need to word that for a renewal. We do not meet the specified black and white requirements of a 10-year because we do not have that 3 years worth of data. But I would like for a request be made for a 7-year or greater renewal.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Questions from board members, comments?
I don't have, this is Shelley, I don't have any questions, just two comments. One, to be commended that so many of your board members are there with you for this. That is something that we really love to see and commend you on that. And also that growth, that's incredible. So well done.
Thank you.
For somebody that knows Stanley, North Carolina very well, just really want to congratulate you. Your school definitely, your name reflects your school. You definitely a community public charter school, and have 750 students in Stanley, North Carolina shows the hard work that you've done, and you need to be commended for that. I know I was involved when you were starting, and people said you couldn't do it. Well, you proved them different, didn't you?
That's right.
Congratulations.
Any other comments?
I mean, just, you look at the data, I mean, trending on the growth with your scores, trending on your student population, I mean, not too many schools can say that they have more students than they plan for, so Dave's looking good.
Thank you.
And I agree with all those great comments, but I would say, tell your website, because it says you have 620 students. I'd already looked you up, if I didn't know that number.
It's a work in progress.
That was a nice, pleasant surprise, yeah, but it's actually,
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, and board members, thank you for joining today as well. So, thank you, Ms. Cook. We'll see you tomorrow. Yeah. So,
So can you go back to that last slide? subgroup data. Would it make sense in that bottom portion of that to put the subgroup data from the LEA?
Yeah, I can do that. I was just thinking of, yeah, not needing a magnifying glass to read the slide. But on the data sheet, you do have the comparison. You don't see, I didn't put the school performance and the LEA performance, but on those data sheets for each school, you do have that plus or minus how they compared. So your data sheet shows the comparison in each subgroup for each year.
That's great data. If it could go on there without, and us be able to still read it, that'd be great.
Sure.
And I think it incumbent also upon the school that's, if you're recommended for a 7 and you want to move to a 10, I would like to see them,
Advocating that way.
yeah, break that number down so we can see it, and that we know that they've crunched it like that as well, so.
Yeah, I agree. I felt, sometimes, I don't know, that's how I feel sometimes, like, everyone looks at the data and they know, they come here and they know what they're probably allotted for and but everyone wants more, it seems like. I felt today we heard some that perhaps might have a case for being more than what the guidelines itself say, but we'll see, we'll have that discussion in January.
And if you, I mean, our office can provide that comparison data. If you want it not from the LEA, we can get that for you if you want that comparison from another county.
Yeah, okay. Well, that concludes today, unless Ashley, do you have any, you already gave the director's update, but anything happened since then that you want to?
I'm sure there will be in 5 more minutes, but no, we're good to go.
All right, and we're back at it again tomorrow morning, starting at 9 o'clock. Tomorrow is a full day of renewals. We will be hearing from some DPI staff on one particular school around some compliance issues. So, with that, we get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
We'll see everybody in the morning. Thank you guys, office staff, for helping out with this.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do we know if we can leave?